All right. Hello and welcome to the newest episode of the New Year Six podcast. Today I'm going to be continuing my conference preview prediction videos. This time we're heading over to the group of five. So wrapped up the Power Four last time with the SEC. We're moving on to the other 70 or so teams at the collegiate level and giving them a shot to see where they finish. If you have not seen my previous videos, it's going to follow the same format even for the group of five. But we're going to go through the division from bottom to top, starting with the team I think is going to come in last place, all the way to the team that I think is going to take it all. And along the way, just highlighting players on both offense and defense that I think are due for a breakout season for their respective teams. So with that, let's get it moving along. It's a new look American Conference to a degree. They lost SMU to the ACC. They have added Army in their place. So with that, still a 14-team conference, and our 14th place team is going to be one of those traditional bottom feeders in the American. Didn't do well last year, not going to do well this year. Just a program that doesn't have that direction that you're looking for even at the group of five. So with that 14th place, I'm going to go with Temple. Again, not a whole lot to be excited for. If you're a Temple fan right now, 3-9 last year, probably not going to do that much better this year. Potentially the ability to do worse. And Temple just doesn't have that direction that they need to move forward as a program. I don't know what the solution is. I don't know what the answer is, but I anticipate. They were in 13th last year. I have them in 14th this year. So potential drop off in that front. And if I'm not mistaken, they start off with Oklahoma on Friday night in week 1. So everyone's going to see what they're about very early on. I'll be watching that game, I'm sure. And, just going to be a tough year for Temple across the board. They just, they haven't lived up to expectations in any sort of capacity. If we take a look at their depth chart in terms of what to be excited for, I'll tell you, I will say the running back position on offense is an interesting one. They bring in Antoine Littleton from Maryland. That's, I think, your bright spot on the offense if you're Temple, because the rest of the team, from what I've seen, is very raw, very inexperienced, very young. And it's going to take some time to build this program up, but you do not have a lot of returning production on the offensive side of the ball. The offensive line is going to be below average, right between that, like below average to bad based on pure returning production. You bring 2 starters back in the form of Luke Watson, who started as a true freshman, and then Wisdom Quarshi on the right guard spot. Receivers, you bring really Dante Wright as your only option back. Everyone else is younger and looking to get that experience. The quarterback spot is taken over by Forrest Brock, who, again, very, very little playing time or experience on that front. So the offense is going to have some struggles. It's going to have some concerns. Defense, not much better. It's the same deal. On the defensive side of the ball, they bring in a couple recruits on the D-line, Cameron Stewart and Latrell Jean. Stewart coming from Rutgers, Jean coming from FAU. But really outside of that, I like Traw Thomas at that jack spot, kind of that hybrid D-line linebacker role, but still a D-line that has a lot of question marks behind it in terms of experience and impact. Same deal with the linebacker room. Don't get me wrong, I do like Taekwon King as that transfer from East Carolina. I think he's going to make an immediate impact for this defense, but it's the surrounding pieces that kind of weigh that situation down. The DB room is going to be the best one on this Temple defense. There are some potential playmakers that have been, again, brought in via the transfer portal. Andreas Keaton comes in from, I think, West Carolina. They have Elijah Darreville back there at corner. I like their other corner they brought in from UTEP, Torrey Richardson. So there are pieces on the DB room. I think the DB room is going to be the closest thing that Temple sees to average this year on defense. but just a lot of question marks in place, a lot of youth, a lot of inexperience. And I don't know if it's going to be enough to save Stan Drayton from being fired this year. We don't root for people to get fired on this channel. We don't, we don't root for people to lose their jobs. It's just a big battle for Drayton and staff to overcome this year. So for our breakout players on the offensive side of the ball, we'll go back to that quarterback spot with Forrest Brock. So again, not a whole lot of tape on the kid, but he will be taking over, the starting role for this team. Had a 22-yard pass against Southern Methodist, who is now an ACC team. So I would consider that a sizable impact play. 22 of his, I think, 60 passing yards on the year just came in one pass. So he can make a move when need be. Started as a JUCO recruit coming in 2023, and he was a 3-star. I don't know how many of those you get at Temple, but you got to maximize the impact and the opportunities that they're given. So I think Brock is going to have an impactful year. I think he's going to step up and be a difference maker for Temple. And again, if Temple is going to start off strong and beat some teams that they shouldn't beat, it's going to have to come on the back of a quarterback, some quarterback play that is probably unexpected from him. So I think Brock is going to be the one that steps up for Temple and assumes that role as, again, as someone with not a lot of experience that is looking to get it as he enters his senior year after this season. I think if Temple comes back into 2025 with an established starting quarterback, they can start to make an impact and some differences in the conference. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, I am going to lean on that D-line. I'll go with Cameron Stewart. Again, comes in from Rutgers, just a 3-star recruit in the class of 21 that never really panned out. And again, this is the power of the transfer portal, right? You have a guy that, never lived up to necessarily his expectations at a Power 4 school, is now going to get a new home and a new start, somewhere else, and has the opportunity to make the most of it. He's going to get, sizable playing time compared to what he had at Rutgers, and I think makes the most of it. If he can move up to that 3-star expectation and that 3-star potential, again, we don't need him to be NFL caliber. We don't need him to be All-American caliber. We need him to be consistently solid on a defensive line that is begging for a star to emerge. I think Stewart can be that guy for a Temple defense and a Temple team all the way around that I anticipate will struggle this year. So I will look at Stewart on the D-line, Brock on the offensive quarterback as players to watch out for, and players that could be due for a big year when it's all said and done. As we move over to 13th place, I think this is, again, a team that is in the same kind of range as Temple. Wow, I lose my train of thought. Same kind of range as Temple, just trying to find out that identity, trying to figure out what they are and where they're going to be this year. But I think it's another struggle year for them. So with that 13th, it's going to be Charlotte. Tough year last year for Biff Poggi and team down there at UNC Charlotte. Struggled last year with a 3-9 net record. I don't see this year being much better and potentially being worse. But again, it's the same kind of deal as Temple, where it's a young team trying to piece it together, some inexperience, some questions around the board. Some players coming in for the transfer portal, going to see what they look like. But it's going to be a tough year for the 49ers this year. As we look at the depth chart, a lot of gold, which means a lot of new players, predominantly through the transfer portal. So taking a look at the offense real quick, I don't see the offense, really excelling this year. I think the defense is going to be a little bit of a step up, but we'll get to them in a second. Let's start on the O-line. Not a ton of returning production. You retain Johnny King at center, and then the rest of your experience comes from other parts of the transfer portal. They bring in Jordan Herman from Florida. They bring in Jordan Moko from Texas A&M, Mo Clipper from Tennessee, Mitchell Mays from Clemson. So Power 4 schools, don't get me wrong, but just guys that never really played a lot. Mitchell Mays played decent reps at Clemson, but the rest are just kind of guys that never panned out at the Power 4 level and are figuring out their spot now. Same with the receiver room. Again, Jack Hestera has his flashes and his moments. You could say the same for, Josh Mack, but it's tough to see that all come together for a receiver room that's generally younger and less experienced than some of the other ones we'll see across the conference this year. Same as the quarterback position. It's now the Max Brown era at Charlotte. I've watched Max Brown play, coming from Florida. I think the group of 5 is a great spot for him to land, but we have not seen a ton of film on him in terms of his impact and ability, especially as a passer. So what does that look like for Charlotte this year now that he's going to be the full-time guy? And then the running back room, much of the same. They bring in Cartavius Norton from Iowa State, but that is about it, right? I don't see it coming together. Again, it's just I don't see a spot on this offense where I'm particularly amazed by anyone from a returning production standpoint. Doesn't mean someone can't step up, but in terms of who's coming back, especially with how often the group of 5 teams get picked apart via the transfer portal, it's gonna require a modern miracle to get the offense working for Charlotte this year. Defense is going to be a step up. Defense will be better. Bringing in some talented guys, especially on the front 7 or so. If I look at the D line, I like Demon Clowney, who comes back, to Charlotte. His homegrown talent. They bring in Dre Martin from South Carolina. They bring in Dre Butler from Michigan State. There's going to be some impact players alongside Stone Hardy, who's returning. But the linebacker room kind of the same as well. Aiden Kaler coming from Stony Brook. That is an impact player that I think you should watch for, just from a pure talent perspective, as is Prince Bema. So there's definitely some guys on that front 7 that you can look out for. I would consider those rooms pretty close to average compared to the rest of the conference in terms of returning production. DB room is where it drops off a little bit. So they have Dante Balfour. He's coming back. Al-Maki Ali, also coming back at the safety spot. So there are definitely some guys that Charlotte can lean on, but I'm just looking for a more complete room from top to bottom here. So with that, the impact player on Charlotte's offense is going to be Max Brown coming in from Florida to Charlotte. Didn't do a whole lot as a passer last year. Was in relief of Graham Mertz, especially after Mertz got hurt in the Missouri game. But Max's skill is more so as a dual threat guy, especially someone who can beat you with his legs. Picked up a 27-yard run against Missouri last year, again, in relief. Was not expecting to play that game, but stepped up in a timely manner. It was not a game Florida won, unfortunately, but it was one where Max showed his ability as a runner first and foremost. So I would look at that as a potential skill set, a potential opportunity for this Charlotte offense to lean on a guy who can beat you with his feet as well as his arm. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, I am going to go back to that secondary. It says Mississippi State instead of Charlotte, but it is supposed to be, Trevion McGee. That part is correct. So this is a transfer safety coming in from Iowa State. Had a 3-tackle performance against Oklahoma. Just someone who hasn't seen the field all too much, but is making the most of his opportunities when he can. Now he's just going to be a full-time starter and less of a rotational special teams guy. And again, this is the power of the transfer portal. When a guy can come from a Power 4 program and not get a ton of time, now he's going to boost his opportunities at a Group of 5 school, and make the most of his skill set and what he has to offer this team. I think, if you can get 3 tackles against Oklahoma, you can get 3 tackles against Temple, right? You can get 3 tackles against USF. And that's the type of caliber team that he's going to be playing all year now. So I expect him to feast. I expect him to rise to that occasion and make the most of his opportunities. So I think McGee on the defensive side of the ball, Brown on offense are your breakout players for a Charlotte team that I still think is going to have a tough year. It's not in the cards as far as what I've seen. That was we move on to our 12th place team. With SMU gone, someone has to take their spot. And I don't think that someone is going to be winning the conference championship anytime soon. It's a team that has not been in a conference for quite some time, but we bring our newcomer to the mix. Unfortunately, they're going to be on the wrong side of the conference standings this year. We'll go Army. Solid year last year for Army. I do think they're going to take a bit of a step back. Depending on what you think of Army and Navy as pure programs, it's either an absolute joy or an absolute nightmare to watch these teams. Because there's something cool about the tradition about it, and watching them run triple option, or in this case gun option, stuff like that. It's so unique to the sport. It's not seen really anywhere else. But at that same time, when two teams like that play each other, that's why Army Navy to me is one of my least favorite games. Not because of the tradition around it, nothing like that, but from a pure X's and O's perspective, it is infuriating. But I'm very curious to see what Army can do over the course of this season in a new conference. Their strength of schedule is probably going to be around the same as it's been historically, but just going to be interesting to see what Army can do with a new home and a new series of opponents. They're still going to get Navy, they're still going to get Air Force, all that staying the same. I think they got Notre Dame this year, so just going to see what they do against these other new people in the on their lineup. So if we look at their Army's depth chart, obviously no transfer portal. Again, it's the service academies in Clemson. Those are the ones not doing anything. But we're going to stick at their offense first. If you look again, pure returning production. I do like the offense more than the defense. Obviously, they are not a pass-heavy team. I can't find a pass threat on this lineup anywhere, so you can just skip that altogether, right? The line is solid. The line, especially the left half from the center over, you got some guys over there. You got Jordan Love, Lucas Scott, and Brady Small. Those are some guys you gotta keep an eye on if you're an opposing defensive coordinator. There's going to be a lot of protection on that side of the ball, or that side of the line. So definitely a strength of Army heading into this year. I do like Bryson Daly as a quarterback in this conference. He's somewhat proven. It's not to the degree that some of these. I mean, they're going from they're going from playing Army, Navy, Air Force, etc., where you just run all the time. You're going to play some pass-heavy teams moving forward. But I like Daly in comparison to some of the other teams in this conference and what they bring to the table. I think Daly is underrated and could end up as a serviceable quarterback for this Army team. Running back room, I think, is going to be average, below average. You do have a 1-2 punch of Tyrell Robinson and Kanye Udo. Curious to see how that comes together this year. They got about 1,100 yards rushing combined. I think it was last year. So we'll see if that is replicated this year. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, I do have some more questions. The D-line is going to be the best part of this defense, and it's not great. I look at Kyle Lewis as potentially your big playmaker up front, but the rest give me some question mark. Maybe Jack Latore as well, but nothing particularly mind-blowing on that front. The linebacker room and the DB room are potentially the worst in the conference when it comes to pure returning production. You get Caleb Fortner at the linebacker room, but outside of that, not a lot of returning production back there. You get Max. Okay, I think I can get this one. Max DiDomenico. At that safety spot. But really outside of that, there's not a lot of DBs coming back there. So get specks of talent here and there, but the rest got to rise to the occasion for Army, especially if they're going to play outside of their means and make an impact this year. So if we look at the offense, the breakout player I'm going to pick, I'll take their tight end. I'll go with David Crossan. Hasn't done a whole lot particularly so far. Interested to see what he does as a receiver this year, as a pass blocker, as a special teams guy, how they're going to use him. But someone has to emerge as a pass catching threat. Like in any capacity. I understand that. Army's going to run the ball 85 to 90% of the time. Someone's got to step up in the other 10 to 15%. I think Crossan can be that guy just by virtue of the rest have had their opportunities. Crossan hasn't. So let's see what he does when he does get that opportunity this year. On the defensive side of the ball, I will go with Damon Washington. Had a 2-tackle performance against Troy last year, just a senior with, not a ton of experience, predominantly on like special teams and stuff like that. But someone's gonna have to step up and be that lockdown corner for this squad. It could be Donovan Platt, who has had this experience, but we got someone on the other side that needs to step up as well. I think Washington is going to be that guy for Army on the defensive side of the ball. Someone that emerges and shuts down opposing defense or opposing offenses, makes big plays when he needs to. Someone's going to have to do that in this DB room, because really it's Max DiDomenico and maybe Donovan Platt. And then someone else is going to have to rise to the occasion. I think Washington is going to be that guy. He's going to get his opportunities and make the most of it for an Army team that is going to struggle adjusting to their new conference year one. So Washington on defense, Crossan on offense. As we move to 11th place, we've seen the land, and now I think it's fair that we go to the sea. So Army's rival branch, and they're not Mountain West, so we're doing the American preview here. So with that, 11th place, we'll go with Navy. Brian Newberry's back. Did pretty well last year, all things considered. Start off with that blowout loss in Ireland, and then fought and clawed their way back to a somewhat respectable year. I don't know if they're going to be able to replicate it, but I think they're going to be in the realm of that possibility. I don't know. I don't think they're getting better. Again, finished and probably tied for 5th would be my guess. Last year, I have them at 11th, so I do anticipate a step back on that front. But, I think it's going to be a Navy team that is going to be very similar to Army in terms of how they're built, obviously. Some key differences here and there that we're going to get into, but it's going to be a run-first team with, a quarterback that's not particularly great, so on and so forth. We know how it works for them. But we'll get to their depth chart real quick. If we look at Navy's depth chart, let's start with the O-line first. O-line is going to be solid. You got some starters. This, again, the opposite of Army, where their starts are on the left, Navy's are on the right. You get your center with Brett Self. You get Connor McMahon on the right tackle spot. You get some starts or returning production from Trey Cummings and Ben Purvis. So it's an average to below average line, all things considered. And you got to get good with those chop blocks. You got to get into run blocking. Things that are not particularly easy to do play after play after play. The physical conditioning involved with that, as well as the size limitations put on service academies compared to, you can be 350 pounds in the SEC, and they'll start you. You cannot be 350 pounds in Navy. If they're basic and all that. But I think the O-line will be serviceable enough. Receiver room does not have a whole lot going on. The receiver with the most returning production has 86 yards. That's Nathan Kent. The receiver with the most returning production has 2 touchdowns. So that's Regis Velas. So someone needs to step up on that front, because that's not a recipe for success. I know they're going to run all the time. That doesn't mean you can't pass ever. It'll be interesting, but if you look at Navy moving forward again, quarterback going to be similar to, a step down from Army. They think Blake Horvath, who does not have a ton of experience in his own right. So who's going to step up there? Running back room, as expected, is going to be a treat to watch. Alex Texon in particular in that fullback role, 750-yard guy, right? And they've got 3 running backs that are going to be rotating. It's going to be interesting to watch when it's all said and done. But the running back room is the one highlight of this place that puts them in the top 5. Now the defense from top to bottom is solid. The defense from top to bottom is legit when you examine it closely. D-line is going to be average. Everything else will be above average, right? The D-line, specifically like Justin Reed in particular being a lockdown guy, Landon Robinson has his flair and his moments. Those are some players that can make an immediate impact for you on the team. Really looking forward to seeing what they have in store for this year. The linebacker room is above average, and that's partially because, as you can see on the screen, we don't know who that Mike linebacker is going to be. If we knew, I could evaluate them. But right now, I'm going off the fact that we know Colin Ramos is back, who's one of the best linebackers in the conference. We know that Luke Pierce is back, who's in that hybrid edge type role. That 1-2 duo is fantastic. But what do we do with that empty spot? Who's going to fill it? How do they step up? I don't know. Time's going to tell. But it's a good looking linebacker group. The DB room is one of the best in the conference when you really deconstruct it. Deshaun Peelick at cornerback. Betty Williams at the assuming band is a safety, like a strong safety role. Ram Lane, Andrew Duhart. So that there's a 1, 2, 3, 4 punch right there that I think is going to shut down a lot of opposing offenses. And again, if you're going to try to attack them through the air, I don't think Navy's going to let that happen. As much as they run the ball on offense, I think they're going to be a lockdown group of corners and safeties on defense. Kind of ironic when it's all said and done, but I think they're going to be looking good on the DB side of things. So with that, on the offensive side of the ball, that breakout player, we'll go with Cody Howard, at the tight end role. Again, 32-yard catch against Wagner, so has had that little flair of like what he could do. But really, that's one of 3 catches he had last year. So the rest are going to be short passes, 5-10 yards. 18 divided by 2, about 9 on average. So, definitely want to see him more involved in the in the passing game. But I know he's going to be used more as a blocker, special team stuff like that. But as the playbook opens up as the season emerges, keep an eye on Howard at the tight end spot, especially in places like the red zone where you can pick up some scores. So someone's going to step up in that receiver room. I think it's going to be Cody Howard as the guy. On the defensive side of the ball, let's go with that D-line. Kendall Whiteside, just a guy who has not found the field yet, but is going to find it this year. It looks like he's going to be starting in or at least rotating on the D-line, and I'm curious to see what that looks like. I think if you go to Navy, if you go to if you go to Annapolis, if you go to West Point, if you go to the Air Force Academy, you got big heart, man. Like, it is not an easy way to do that. You can go to Arizona State. You can go to UCF, you can go to Texas A&M and have a blast. Like, these kids work hard day in and day out. I think it's the work ethic of a guy like Whiteside is going to benefit this team long term. Just because he hasn't seen the field his first 2 years, doesn't mean he's not going to see it this year. And I think all that hard work is going to pay off this year as a permanent rotational guy that evolves into a starter that makes his impact felt for a Navy defense that should be pretty good, that I think unfortunately is going to be saddled by a lackluster offense as they kind of fall below those expectations that some people may have them. I think Navy's not going to have a particularly great year, but it's not going to be because of the defense. So I'll look at Whiteside on defense, Howard on offense for a Navy team that's going to struggle a bit so far. So let's move into 10th place. We're going to get away from the service academies for a second. And we're going to go with one of our mainstays. This is a team that I don't think has a lot of hype around them from what I've gathered. Kind of the quote unquote forgotten one of the conference at times. I think it's just due to the fact they got the smallest enrollment in all of college football, or all of the FBS, and that kind of gives it away if you don't know who it is already. So in 10th place, I'm going to go with Tulsa. So Kevin Williams in year 2 didn't do great last year, but I would expect some sort of bounce back, at least a plateau. Because I have them in 10th. They finished in 11th last year, so that is a steady incline. It's going to be right around where they ended up. But just a not really talked about team in this conference. When it's all said and done. But I think Tulsa's got, they got some pieces that are nice, and we'll go over them in a little bit, particularly on the offensive side of the ball. But I don't think it's going to be enough to overcome this steep odds that they've got to make it to a bowl game. So let's look at the offense real quick. O-line is going to be below average. They have I am not going to get this one. Tautai Leo Marks at guard, who's coming back. The rest are rotational guys or new guys. They bring in Caden Stanton from New Mexico State. He can make an impact, but generally it's not a particularly experienced offensive line when it's all said and done. The receiver room is looking good. They bring back Camden Benjamin. He's a big time threat. They bring in Jeremiah Ballard from UTEP. I think that's a good 1-2 punch for this team. Jack Wright comes in from North Dakota. He's one to watch for. Add Ethan Hall, who's a serviceable tight end. There's some weapons on this Tulsa team that'll put their receiver room in the top 5 in the conference. And then their quarterback and running back duo, I would consider to be around the average mark. I like Kirk Francis a little bit more than Anthony Watkins. Kirk Francis did well as a redshirt freshman last year. I don't know what he technically played as. Has showed up in a limited capacity last year and is ready to evolve as the full starter this year. So I'm guessing he got 6 touchdowns in 4 or less games. Just based on the numbers I've got, that's as a true freshman. He's going to get better as time progresses for this Tulsa team. Threw for almost 1,000 yards as a true freshman. That's nothing to be ashamed at in any capacity. It's something to keep your eye on. Anthony Watkins does offer a level of seniority at the running game. I know he's looking to clip 1,000 yards. I know he wants more than 4 touchdowns in a year. I think his opportunities are going to come. So generally, it's an offense that I think can do some damage when it is all said and done. The defense is where I think we're going to lose some games. If I'm Tulsa, D-line is the least experienced in the conference. You got Miles Jackson, who comes in from Indiana. That's one to watch. Got Vontroy Malone coming back, but outside of that, I don't know who you lean on. The linebacker room, you got Gavin Potter, who comes in from Arkansas State, but outside of him, I don't know who you lean on. And I think he's good enough to carry that linebacker room just to below average status. DB room is all Tulsa, born and bred with Dane Hodge comes back. Tyree Carlisle comes back. So there's some guys back there that are good enough to hold this team up. I just don't look at one position group on the defense and think to themselves, that's the star power. That's where we need to get better. Or that's those are the stars of the team. I don't see that on the defense. I do see it on the offense. I see it in the receiver room. I see it in the quarterback room a little bit, but I don't see it on the defense in a capacity. So let's talk about our breakout players, though. On offense, I'll stick with the line. I'll go with Bennett Ringweb. Again, just a young guy that hasn't played a whole lot. Redshirted last year, but is ready to take on that starting role. For a Tulsa team that needs someone on the offensive line to step up. It's the weakest part of their offense. It's the least experienced. And someone is going to be the one that answers the call on the offensive line. I think it's going to be Ringweb. That right-hand side is, it's not that blindside spot, but, it's someone that you need to lock down, especially if you want to evolve the offensive options. The scheming and the blocking is going to go a long way in making that happen. So I think Ringweb is going to be the guy who does that, on that right-hand side for Tulsa this year. On the defense, we'll go to the other side of the line. We have a JUCO transfer by the name of Joe. That is not a typo. That HJ is not a typo. I'm going to say it's Jelly or Gel. I think the H is going to be silent. I could be wrong though, but I think if I'm right about him stepping up, we will know how to say his name by the end of the year. You'll know his name is in Tulsa. That's what matters. But the kid was good enough to come in from Iowa Western and potentially earn a starting spot immediately upon arriving to campus. That's a big ask by your coaches. And again, I'm a believer that if you come in from a JUCO and start immediately, regardless, you earn that spot. If you come up from FCS program, you start immediately, you earn that spot. Things like that go a long way with building a program long term and over the course of several years. And it's going to require a big effort from Jelly there on that nose tackle spot to get pressure and to open up the defensive options that are available to him this year. So I'm looking at Jelly on defense, Ringlet on offense for a Tulsa team that is just going to be stuck right around that middle this year. I don't see them going one way or the other. As we head to ninth place, again, another team coming back from last year that I think would consider fell below expectations, and I think they're going to end up probably right around that same spot this year. Probably a team that may have some hype around them. I haven't heard a whole lot. I've only heard hype around probably 4 or 5 teams in this conference. This is not one of them, but a team that when they get going can rise to the top if need be. We'll go with North Texas. So Eric Morris is back. Okay year last year. I expect kind of around that this year. Again, they came in 8th last year. I got them in 9th this year. So potentially a setback, but probably right around where they ended up last year. There's some, good returning production on this team. There's some youth to match it out with, but it's a team that doesn't have the pieces in place to be elite within the conference yet. Now they have some elite play, like they have some elite position groups in this conference, and we'll get to, especially on offense. We're going to get to them in a little bit, but it's just not a complete package yet at this current time. So if we look at the depth chart, starting on offense, I don't see a group on this offense that I'm really concerned about. The O-line is going to be average, which I think you can take with Gabe Blair and Jet Duncan as that 1-2 punch in the middle. Even Landon Peterson at the right guard comes in from Texas Tech. He's going to make an impact immediately. So from the center and the guards, I think you're in a good spot. I think that's something to recognize for this team, especially with, as you can see, a lot of gold specifically in the depth. I think it's a team that may not be super top heavy, but will have the resources to go the distance long term this year. Receiver room is looking nice. Obviously, when you run a 4-wide set and you're a very pass-heavy offense, that will come up. If you look at who they've brought in or who they've moved around, right? Damon Ward is a name you want to remember. Landon Sides is a true freshman at a 4-touchdown campaign. Xavier Kautai, I'm going to say that's probably his name, at tight end. He's a red zone threat. So there's all of these opportunities to pick apart, but it's a receiver room that is top 3 in the conference when it's all said and done. They bring in Chandler Morris at quarterback from TCU. When he's cooking and when he's doing his thing, he's going to be. This is a great fit for Texas. He'll have the receivers around him. He'll have the blocking around him. Chandler Morris is going to have a huge year this year in North Texas. And then you have a running back that's one of the best in the conference in Ikeka Ragdale. So on the offense, I am not worried about this team whatsoever. Defense is where I think you take a step back, but I don't think it's that much of a step back either, right? If we look at the D-line, this is a top 5 one in the conference with Roger Brown, Fatafihai, Bailea. That's a great punch. And then they bring Jake Shipley in from Oregon. So I look at that and I think to myself, there's at least a couple players up front that can make an immediate impact for you. The linebacker room is no different, where Jordan Brown, Ethan Wazlowski, those are some guys that, are playmakers on every side of the ball. Even Jalen Smith at linebacker, who hasn't really shown a lot yet, he can be the guy that you really want to see, as a linebacker. The DB room, I think, is where you got some concern, and I think it's just because everyone's new. The only returning production piece is Rich Tejada, and he's the one I think is one of the most impactful players. You do bring in Aisheem Young from Ole Miss, but the rest of the players you bring in have very, very little experience back there. They are all very young, or have not said that. You bring in the two guys from Texas, B.J. Allen and Xavier Bryce. Jaden Hill comes in from JUCO. So again, there's just not enough proof in the safety room for me to consider this a threat to other teams within the conference. But let's do the offense first. Our breakout player. We'll stick with the line. Makai Lee, who comes in from Missouri, 3-star recruit in the class of 2022. I believe that was as a JUCO heading into Missouri. But again, the O-line is going to be strong from the center and guard spots. We need a tackle to step up. I think Lee can be the guy to step up. So from there, can that get done? Can that be in place for a North Texas team that needs that time to create space, create separation, and create protection for Morris? If Morris has an O-line that fits well, and the receivers live up to their expectation, and the run game can be established, North Texas is going to finish better than that. I just need to see it before we put something into action. But I think a big performance and a big year out of Lee is going to help make that case very, very strong. And then on the defensive side of the ball, I am going to go with Jaden Hill again. Comes in from Ohio Dominican. I almost said Iowa for some reason. Ohio Dominican. I believe that is a junior college, and he's a 3-star recruit, coming out of the JUCO rankings. But again, if you come from JUCO and you come ready to, to play at the Power 4 level or the Group of 5 level, and you come ready to start, you'll get that time. I don't watch a whole lot of film about Ohio Dominican, right? I don't know what their mascot is. I don't know where to find them on the map. But the North Texas coaching staff found Hill. And they know what they've got. They know why he's starting and what type of impact he can make, and what he's going to do for this North Texas team. So, I believe in the coaching staff. I believe they found their guy at free safety there, and that they found someone who's going to anchor their defense for at least this year. So, I'm looking at Hill on defense, combine that with Lee on offense for a North Texas team that is going to hover around the bubble, but I think it's just going to have a hard time climbing the mountaintop into something more. In 8th place, I'm going to go with this is a team that has a ton of hype around that. Especially in this conference, it is a team that many people are thinking to finish in the top 3. I'm not going to let one solid year, deter me from that yet. So I'm kind of in I believe it when I see it mode, not rooting against them, just kind of is what it is. But I'm not sold on it yet, especially with the difficulty of their schedule, especially early on. So with that, 8th place, we'll go USF. Big bounce back year for Alex Golish last year. Came in, turned that program around pretty instantly. So it is a program to watch long term, especially with the shifting of conferences. Could USF get an invite to the ACC or to the Big 12 when it's all said and done? Time will tell. That's not the point of this conversation. But USF is in a position long term to do some pretty special things. I just don't think it's going to be this year. So they ended up at 5th place last year, around 500. I expect roughly around that this year. I have 8th place, so maybe a little bit of a drop off, but I think as fans we recognize, or as college football fans, we recognize that USF can do some great things when the system is all put together for them. I just think it's going to take a little bit more time than what Golish has put together as of right this minute. So with that, let's go to the depth chart real quick. A lot of in-house moves, which is nice. Kept a lot of the talent around. So just looking at the depth chart, definitely some pieces to build off of for sure, especially on the offense. The offense has some good looking pieces. O-line returns 3 starters with Mike Lofton, Zane Herring, and Derek Bowman. So that's center to right tackle. The whole right side is coming back. RJ Perry has a lot of returning snaps. So I think the O-line is going to be top 5. It's a good looking O-line for sure. The receiver room is very top heavy, carried by Sean Atkins. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It does put them as a average to above average receiver. And they bring in Abdur Rahman Yassin from Purdue as a grad transfer. What can he do? Because he's played sparingly up there. So I'm very curious to see what the receiver room does when it's all said and done. Really like Byron Brown at quarterback. Someone to watch, especially being a redshirt sophomore. They were able to retain him. I'm sure if he has another great year, someone from the transfer portal is going to be knocking on their door to pick him up. And then I think Naquan Wright is the best running back in the American League when all things are considered. He had a great year last year, ran for almost 800 yards and 8 touchdowns. And this is it. He's a grad transfer. He's doing what he's in his grad year, doing what he needs to do. And I'm sure he wants to break that 1,000-yard mark on the end of it all. On the defensive side of the ball, pretty much the same, right? The D-line is going to be top 5. You've got some playmakers. You've got Rashad Cheney. You got DJ Harris, Jason Vaughn. So you've got some guys there that can make that impact for you. Or DJ Harris, excuse me, I guess technically a linebacker. He's on that edge list. Either or, but I mean, he's still a playmaker anywhere you put him, right? But it's a good-looking D-line. Linebacker, I think, is going to be a little bit more average because outside of Harris, you got Jalen Schuler, Amaris Brown, Mac Harris is back there. So there's some impact players for sure. Not going to take it for granted. I just look at it compared to the rest of the conference, and I'm not as sure about the linebacker room compared to the rest of the conference. But the DB room is the best in the conference. They bring in DeMarco Augustine from Youngstown State. That's an immediate impact player for you. Combine that again with Amaris Brown, Jalen Stokes, Logan Berryhill, Taven Ward. Everyone back there is a playmaker. Everyone back there is ready to make an impact or a difference for you. It's going to be a matter of how does it look when it's all said and done. But I think the DB room is something to be excited for if you're a Bulls fan. So looking at the offensive breakout player, we'll go with that's your defense. We'll go with Weston Wolf at the tight end spot. Again, just a guy who hasn't had a ton of playing experience, got 3 catches against Rice, 32-yard catch against Charlotte. I did see him. I was looking at just a little bit of tape. I did see that hurdle against Alabama. I didn't throw it in here, but that's a Sports Center level play. It's athletic, right? So I think Wolf is going to be used more in the offense this year than he has in the past. Especially with the passing game probably more focused on Sean Atkins. It's going to have to open up if USF is going to fool some of these defenses, and using a tight end to do that is pretty spot on with how to make some impact there. So I think Wolf is going to have that type of year. I think he's going to be someone that emerges as a red zone threat for USF, and showcases that that the receiver room is not revolving exclusively around one person. Especially if USF wants to evolve into one of the power players of the conference. On the defensive side of the ball, as you were shown earlier, we'll go with Mac Harris, linebacker. Has shown glimpses already as what was that in junior year. the game against UConn where he picked up, forced a fumble and picked it up, picked up an interception against, Charlotte. So I know those are lower level opponents. Lower quality, I guess, not lower level. That'd be like FCS, but you know what I mean. UConn, nothing special. Charlotte, nothing special. But you got to make those plays against those teams, at least to show that you can. And then from there, when you're playing against UTSA, when you're playing against Memphis, when you're playing against FAU, and I guess to bring up Charlotte again, when you're playing them again, the confidence is instilled early against weaker opponents, so that in your heart of hearts you can do it against better opponents. So I think Harris is going to have a big year at that linebacker role. There's a lot of great players around him, every position group, but I think this year in particular, Harris steps up, for a USF team that I think is going to fall below expectations, but that others may find different, that others may believe to, rise to that occasion and potentially beyond. They may compete for a playoff spot. I do not need to be right about these. I'm going to be right about some of these. I'm going to be dead wrong about others. USF could be one of those ones I'm dead wrong about. It's all said and done. So, as we head to the top half of the conference here, a team that has made the most of their conference switch in recent years, a team that has a saying about them, right? And if you watch, Late Kick with Josh Pate, he has a saying: "You don't lose to food," right? That's the saying on the channel. Well, the team I've got in 7th place, when it's all said and done, I think they're going to be, one of those teams that, rises to the occasion and has a big year coming out of them. So if you don't lose to food at that Late Kick Live, over here, I think a lot of people are going to be losing to food. So 7th place, I got Rice. So Mike Bloomgren had a good year last year, brought them back to a bowl game over in Houston there. But Rice had a big year. I expect around the same. I had them in 7th. They came in 7th last year, or 5th last year, 7th this year. So we'll see what that ends up looking like. But I would anticipate bowl game and more, especially in the AAC. I think the top usually 8 or so make a bowl game, historically speaking. So I think Rice will be playing somewhere in December. I just don't know where. But when I think of Rice over the years and how bad they've been, those one-win teams getting clowned on by Johnny Manziel with the pointing at the scoreboard. That's what I think of Rice historically. I'm not thinking of John F. Kennedy's address about why we go to the moon, right? That was Rice from yesteryear. I think of Rice historically as really not good. But I think they've turned a corner under Bloomgren. I think things are coming together, and I think they're going to have a big year as a result of that. If we look at the depth chart, we look at the position by position, again, I see a lot of talent on this team from top to bottom. The O-line is the best in the conference. I said what I said. The O-line with Brant Banks, Lavelle Dumont, Ethan Owanawa, that's 3 returning starters. They bring Braden Nutter has had some time in there. Even Miguel Cedeno, who has played predominantly on rotational and in special teams. This is an experienced and talented offensive line that is going to do wonders for this team this year. The receiver room is average to above average, right? You have Bowden Groen as a red zone tight end threat. Definitely not worried about him. Landon Ransom Goats is kind of your traditional receiver one, I would say. Would love to see someone in that arena step up and emerge as a 500-yard guy or a 5-touchdown guy. We haven't seen that yet, but we can see it this year. At quarterback, you bring in E.J. Warner from Temple. This is a big get for Rice. I think E.J. Warner comes in and is immediately a top 5, top 3 quarterback. He did wonders at Temple last year. If he was back at Temple this year, I wouldn't have had them at 14th. I'd probably have them, I don't know how much higher, but they wouldn't be in 14th. But EJ Warner is going to be huge for this, this Rice team, and this Rice offense in particular. Running back room looks good as well, led by Dean Connors, 700-yard guy, 7-touchdown guy, top 3 back in the conference. The offense is clicking right now. It's hard, every part of that room on offense is going to be above average. With the majority being in the top 5, top 3. That's what you want to see if you are Rice and you're building that program up. Defensive side of the ball, no difference. Every room in that defense is top 5 right now. D-line is going to be top 1, would be my guess. I think it is the best D-line in the conference for this year. Coleman, Coco, Blake Bowenish would be my guess how you say that. Isaiah Floyd, there are some players there. I'm telling you, this is the best D-line in the conference when it's all said and done. The linebacker room and the DB room are top 5. It's hard to pick one in particular. I like Myron Morrison a lot. Play Wyatt, Chris Conti. It's just one after another in that linebacker room. Same with the DB room. You just got to narrow it down. Who do you identify as your top guy? Is it Gabriel Taylor? Is it Jonathan G? Is it Sean Fresh? It's hard to pick one because there's so many talented players on that side of the ball over there. And it's going to make it for a great season on the defense as well as the offense for Rice this year. On the offense for our breakout player, I will go with Kobe Campbell. So again, looking for that receiver to step up. And, guys played sparingly, hasn't played all that much, but he has made an impact when possible. So his one touchdown of the year was a 70-yard catch against Texas Southern. I know that is an FCS school, but it is still a 70-yard catch in an impactful game. And then a 2-catch performance against Houston, a 2-catch performance against Tulane. So that's 5 of his 17 catches on the year. That 70 yards was 70 out of his 192 yards on. So from there, I look at that and I'm like, okay, he makes his impact known when possible. And now he's going to be a full-time guy. Now he's going to be less of a rotational dude and more of a full-time starter. What does that look like, for Rice as the year develops? I think his yards are going to go through the roof. I think his touches are going to go through the roof. His touchdowns are going to go through the roof. And as a result, Rice is going to win more games than they lose. So maybe the old adage, you don't lose to food, I think it's going to be less of an insult and more of a, hey, Rice is looking all right this year. And then on the defensive side of the ball, I'm going to go with Josh Piercy. So this guy, again, has not found the field all that much, right? Redshirt senior, this is it. Has played predominantly in a blocking capacity or a special teams capacity. Hasn't really found his name on the stat sheet, but is going to have to step up this year, especially knowing that the D-line is as stacked as it is. The linebacker is a quality group, and he's going to play a role in that. So I'm looking at Piercy to be the one to make that name known and make that impact felt for a Rice defense and a Rice team that is going to shock some people. I don't have their game-by-game record in front of me. I do that. I just don't post it. But I'm very curious to see what fans think and what people think when Rice starts off as strong as they do. And I'm not going to, again, I don't do game-by-game predictions. So that's a lot harder than it looks. But very interested to see what Rice does with both sides of the ball looking as good as they do so far this year. As we head into number 6, a team that definitely disappointed last year, but one of the traditional kind of stronger programs in this conference. First year coach last year, ready to make an impact this year in year 2, and I think the difference will be felt, fairly immediately. And with that, 6th place, we'll go with UAB. Trent Dilfer is back. Bad first year, but I think it comes together a little bit more this year. And they end up in my eyes 6th place. Again, just a guy that hadn't coached at this level yet, but obviously had played at a much higher level. And with that, I think the development of this team just needed a little bit of time. I got some questions about this team. Don't get me wrong. From a pure returning production standpoint, it's younger and inexperienced in some parts that I think we'd rather have. But I think that team will come alive as the year goes on. So as we look at the depth chart here, starting with the O-line, you really only return Brady Wilson. Everyone else is, younger, rotational, something like that. You bring in John Darius Morgan from South Carolina, but the rest are rotational guys at best that haven't had that real opportunity to start full time. They're going to get it this year. The receiver room is below average, let's say. Again, returning production. Bryce Demo is a good looking tight end. Amari Thomas is your wide receiver one, but I love a little bit of depth on this receiver team, especially knowing that I would expect them to be targeted much more and have more of a up-tempo passing attack. I do like Jacob Zeno at quarterback. That's a top 5 guy in the conference. And it makes sense when you got Trent Dilfer as your coach, again, a guy who played quarterback in the NFL, that you would have a quarterback that's fairly good or higher than average in your on your team within your conference. Running back room is going to be below average. I don't anticipate them using them a whole lot. Isaiah Jacobs is solid to inexperienced, but the parts that I anticipate being there are more so the quarterback, and I think they have that at UAB. On defense, this is where I think you got some more problems, more than the offense. I don't see a room on this team that I look at thinking to myself we know what we're getting there. It's a lot of inexperience. It's a lot of youth. It's a lot of players figuring things out along the way. You'll see that on the D line because you do have Kevin Penn, but the rest of those players around him have been inexperienced. You bring Ladarius Cox, who comes in from Indiana, but the rest around him are just guys who haven't found their spot yet. If we look at the linebacker room, you bring in O.C. Brothers, who comes in from Purdue. You compare him with Michael Moore, compare him with Everett Rousseau. You get these guys around there that are making an impact and making a difference. And then kind of the same at the linebacker room, or at the cornerback room. You bring in Adrian Maddox from Alabama State. I know that's FCS, but that's a player that will step up for you. You combine that with Colby Dempsey. You got some guys that can make that impact, but they just haven't yet. I think it's a room full predominantly, or it's a defense full of guys that have just not hit their potential yet, but have the opportunity to do that this year. So with that, let's go with our impact player or breakout player on offense. And I didn't switch this one either. This was supposed to be UAB. I will get those right from the next PowerPoint. So UAB breakout player on offense will go with John Darius Morgan. So transfer from South Carolina, 3-star recruit in the class of 2021. Again, just because you transfer doesn't mean it's just didn't work out for you at your program, right? Especially if he's been there for a while. Just a fresh start, fresh coat of paint is going to do wonders for him on that line, and make the impact that he's looking for over the course of this year. So I think Morgan, with an O-line begging for someone to step up and take a leadership role, knowing that he is a junior and will be back for an additional year, what that's going to look like for him and this team long term. So I think John Darius Morgan is going to be the guy on the O-line with the least experience that steps up and potentially delivers the most. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, I did get it to say UAB this time. I'm going to go with Trey Miles. So, again, 3-star recruit in the class of 2022. Hasn't really seen the field all too much yet, predominantly special teams guy. But someone on that DB room is going to have to step up. It can't be the safeties. It can't be the older corners. It's going to be one of the younger guys. He's a redshirt sophomore. Only been around for a couple of years. What's he going to do this year? I think he's going to be a lockdown guy on the left side of the field. But time will tell. But I think Trey Miles will be someone that makes the most of this opportunity and does something great for himself. And the DB room is looking for a leader. So I'm looking at Trey Miles, John Darius Morgan as your breakout players for a UAB team that should correct last year's ship and be on the right path for a future moving forward. And then as we move into fifth place, this team was a disaster last year. There is no way around it. They were rough. But I think they're ready to make that impact and climb the mountain to where they need to be as a team. I think they're ready to make the moves that they need to make. So with that, in fifth place, I will go with East Carolina. Disaster year last year. 2-10. Mike Houston, red hot season. This is rough. But I'm telling you, it turns around. This is the year that ECU brings the return to normalcy for them. They're historically, at least from my perspective, around a 500 team in the conference. I think they go above that. They're going from 13th to 5th. I got a lot of faith in ECU this year. I think they're going to do a lot of good things. We'll see their depth chart in a little bit as to why, but you'll really see some position groups that shine amongst the rest of their conference. So if you look at their depth charts, brought a lot of players in some positions of need. O-line is looking really, really good. I like the addition of Darius Bell from Maine. You combine that with Parker Moorer and Dustin Hall on that left side and through the center. You got a strong rotation there. Your right side were guys were Jacob Skara and Hampton Ergel, who have rotated and started here and there, but they're going to get that full-time spot this year. So a lot of experience on that front. It's a top 5 O-line as a result of that. The receiver room is going to be above average. I like the addition of Winston Wright from Florida State. Combine that with Casey Kelly at the tight end as a red zone threat. And it opens up your playbook a little bit for sure. Having that get protection on the line, some skill position out there, it's going to look good. New quarterback in town. We're going to bring in Jake Garcia from Missouri. I think this could, he's been around the block. He's experienced. Can he do it at ECU? I think he's going to make an impact. It just hasn't been seen yet. So we'll see what that looks like this year. As a result, I don't have him as like a upper half QB. Kind of the same with Rajay Harris at running back. I have him a little bit higher. I have him a little bit closer to that average in the conference. But I think those two are going to be the ones with the most improved when it's all said and done. Skill positions at receiver there, the O-line is there. Can your running back and can your quarterback step up for this offense? The defense, I think, kind of the same. There's some higher highs and some lower lows. Great looking D-line. I think it's a D-line that is top 3 in the conference. Chad Stevens is going to be that guy for you. Combine that with Dante Johnson. So you have your 1-2 punch immediately. If the rest step up around it, this D-line is going to be stopping everyone. The run game is going to have a tough time getting by ECU this year. Linebacker was where I've got some concerns. They do bring in Raheem Craig from Louisville. They bring in Damian Wilson from Missouri. But I'm looking at the rest of them. I really only see Mike Edwards as your full-time impact player. I'd love to see someone from that group step up this year in a big way. And the DB room, I think, is going to be about average. They add Andrew Wilson-Lamb from West Virginia. You add him to, as far as I'm concerned, a solid DB room with Dontavius Nash, Siobhan Revel. So even Jordan Huff, throw him in the mix. But, it's not a group of anyone in particular that I've looked at and think to myself, oh, they're like the guy. Maybe Siobhan Revel. I'll give him his flowers. But, I'd love to see a cohesive, attacking group of DBs that I can put in the top 5, top 3, or top 2. I just don't see that at the current time. But on offense, breakout player, we'll go Jake Garcia, comes in from Mizzou. Just a 4-star recruit in 2021 that has just not found his spot. Started at Miami, went to Missouri, and just either got beat out or injured or something along those lines. It has just not come together for him. it's now or never. It's now or never, buddy. It's got to happen this time. And again, like I don't like Miami. Obviously, um, Missouri I got no problem with, so I'm not rooting for or against this kid. But you know, from a sentimental spot, like you'd love to see someone find that home somewhere and make that impact on a team somewhere. But it just hasn't happened yet. I think it's got a great opportunity for that to happen for Jake Garcia this year. He's just played so sparingly over the last few years. I think he's going to get his moments and his opportunities this year. On the defensive side of the ball, I'll go with Raheem Craig. So rush to me, like he's labeled as a rush. I would imagine it's like an edge rusher, something along those lines. So comes in for Louisville, 2-tackle performance against NC State. You're not going to be playing NC State type teams week after week over week. You're going to be playing App State level teams week after week after week, or UNC Charlotte level teams week after week after week after week. So if you can get 2 tackles against NC State, you can get 5 against USF, right? You could be that guy for your team back there on the D line or on the linebacker or whatever it ends up being. I think he's going to be more as a linebacker, but if that's the case, Craig could be that next guy up that stands up for a linebacker and that is begging for someone to step up. I think Craig has the ability to get that done. I think he's got the chance to get it done. Now it's just going to be a matter of does that come together. So I'm looking at Raheem Craig on defense, Jake Garcia on offense for ECU team that is going to bounce back heavy this year. I think people are sleeping on them, but we'll see what it looks like come together. So with that, we go to our number 4 team, a team that the last few years has been towards / at the top of the conference, a team that, as a result of that, has a new head coach, right? When your head coach gets plucked away, someone else is going to have to step up, and that should give it away when all things are considered. But in 4th place, I will go with Tulane. So the John Sumrall era has begun in New Orleans. He's coming over from Troy, where he was successful there. He's looking to replicate that success and replicate the success that Tulane has had the last few years, with a new type of offense, new type of defense, everything along those lines. How is that going to look out? Bringing his roster in, bringing his team together, everything along those lines. I think he's going to be successful pretty instantly. I don't think he's going to be the last 2 years level successful. I think that's going to take a little bit of time, but he's going to be in the mix of it just like he's been in the past. I don't expect Tulane to take a step back in any real capacity as the season progresses. So we look at the depth chart. I imagine with the new head coach, there's going to be a lot of gold on there, and there is. So let's go piece by piece here. O-line is looking nice. They bring in Vincent Murphy from Western Kentucky. I think he's going to make that impact. They have Rashad Green on the right side. He's locking it down. Who else do they bring back as a starter? Derek Graham, who comes in from Texas A&M. So they have at least two to three players with solid starting experience. I would make an argument that Josh Remetic has been a rotational starting player on the right guard. So there's been that impact for everyone involved, and there's been that it's been that series of people for this offensive line that I'm not worried about them on that front. I'm not worried about the receiver room either. They have Alex Bowman, who's potentially one of the best tight ends in the conference when it's all considered. You bring in Mario Williams from USC, even Keith Brown coming back. There's a lot of talent on that front as well. So not worried about that front. Bring in Ty Thompson at quarterback, who comes in from Oregon. Not a ton of experience there to report on, but with the pieces around him, should be due for a pretty big year. And then you combine that with Mackay Hughes at running back. He's one of the best ones in the conference. Just a 1,300-yard guy, 7 touchdowns. Like, I'm sure he wants more. The guy's just been feasting these last couple of years. I'm sure he wants to make an even bigger impact this year. Defensive side of the ball, this is Tulane's strong suit. I'm a firm believer that every room in this conference is top 3 or better. You can make the argument top 2 when it's all said and done. I'm looking at a D-line that's top 2. When you have Aiden Huntington comes in from Louisiana Monroe, that's a huge get. Huge get. I think he's going to lock down the DN spot. Pair that with Patrick Jenkins. Pair him with Eric Hicks, right? I'm not worried about the D-line in any capacity. I'm not worried about the linebacker. I think it's the best linebacker in the conference. Tyler Grubbs and Jesus Machado, dynamic duo. Not worried about them the slightest. DB room is all brand new, but they brought in all of these players that are like heavy hitting impact guys. Caleb Ransaw from Troy, Lou Tillery from ULM, Bailey Bailey Dispaini would be, I guess, how you say it, but he's coming back. Pair that with Jonathan Edward from Indiana State. A lot of great players in the secondary. I'm having a hard time picking a breakout player because it feels like everyone has broken out. So on offense, I'll go back to Ty Thompson. We actually get a little bit of footage. Isn't that fun? So comes in from Oregon. I do have his 6-yard pass against Hawaii. I don't know if it's a 6-yard pass, but it's a touchdown pass. How about that? So let's just take a look at what Ty Thompson looks like as a passer. Oh, I think this is going to be a 6-yard pass. Yeah, it's on there 40. The snaps. Just gets it off quick. I mean, the receiver does a lot of work, but it's it's a standard slant route that just goes to a good open receiver who makes the right cut. I mean, again, a lot of that was open receiver, but it's the right read, it's the right release time, and I believe that's his first or second touchdown pass for Oregon that year. Okay? He has another one in this game, but I don't think there's footage of it. Again, it's a blowout, but I think as a result of what he learned at Oregon and that high-flying offense and that high power, I think they put up 60 points in that game. It's just a beatdown, right? So as a result of that, I think Thompson's going to take what he's learned and he's going to be put into a West Coast style offense, which is favorable to a quarterback like him. So I think a new offensive system, a new team, a new opportunity to start is going to be great for Ty Thompson to break out this year. And then on defense, we'll go with Jalen Geiger, who comes in from Kentucky. Did pick up a fumble against Ball State last year. Yeah, just a guy that hadn't seen the field a ton, been more of a rotational guy. I expect him to be more of a full-time starter for Tulane this year and to be that impactful player that they're really looking for at Tulane to make the most out of this season. So it's hard to pick a breakout player on defense just because everyone seems to have brought something new to the table or something great to the table. But I think Geiger is going to be the guy for Tulane on defense, and then Thompson on offense for a Tulane team that is going to be dynamic from top to bottom when it's all said. So now that does take us to our top 3. So the team I have in third would just be the one not winning the conference championship. So with that, you're keeping score at home. There's a few teams left, but the team I have in third place, I don't think they have a ton of hype around them. I feel like it's kind of quiet. I think there's a lot of hype around a few other teams in the conference, but I think we have our sights set on the wrong team in the state of Florida. I don't think we're going to Tampa for that sleeper pick. I think we have to go to Boca Raton. So in our third place, I'm going to go with Florida Atlantic. So that leaves a conference championship of Memphis and UTSA, but we will get to them in a little bit. We'll give FAU their moment in the sun. Tom Herman's coming back. Didn't have a great first year. Again, learning experience, building block. But I think Tom Herman is perfect for a program like FAU. There's not a ton of pressure around him. It's not Texas where it's championship or bust. FAU is 6-6, beat FIU, and we're cool. I think they're going to do more than that this year. think they're going to make a real impact on the conference. I think they're going to change the landscape of the state at the Group of 5 level, and there's going to be some shocked people as a result of that. So let's take a look at Florida, or FAU's depth chart real quick in terms of where we're looking good. I actually like the defense more than the offense, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Not a ton of returning production on the offensive line, so some of those younger guys are going to have to step up. They do have Federico Morangues at center. He's coming back. The rest of the team is predominantly rotational guys. Malcolm Lamar Sr. on that left tackle is a rotational guy that's going to start. Andre Lamas is going to be starting, after being a rotational guy. So, just interested to see what they can do with the limelight on them. Should be interesting to watch. Receiver room, I think, is going to be all right. They bring in Marlon Johnson from Buffalo. I think that's a great addition. They still have Zeke Moore as a true freshman who was a red zone threat. I'm sure he's going to develop more as a tight end this year. So it's an average looking receiver room when it comes to pure returning production. At quarterback, you bring in Cam Fancher, who was coming in from Marshall. I think this is a great get for FAU. I think it fits Tom Herman's offense very, very well, that up-tempo offense. And I think immediately Fancher comes in as a upper half quarterback in the conference. And he's just going to get better under the right coaching. And then the running game, you bring in George Johnson from UMass, who I believe is a converted wide receiver to running back. So interested to see how that's going to come together for FAU. Time will tell, but going to see what that looks like for FAU on offense this year. Defense, I think, is going to be a lot better. D-line, I have some concerns, but outside of that, the rest of this defense is looking good. D-line, you have Chris Jones, Marlon Bradley on the two ends there. I think those are your immediate impact players. You make an argument for Jaden Wheeler as well. So I think the three of them in particular are ones that you look at as forces on the D-line, but again, not super experienced when it's all said and done. Definitely want to see more production out of the D-line and getting that pressure applied. At the linebacker spot, you have a 1-2 punch of Desmond Tisdale and Jackson Ambush. Great name for a linebacker, right? You got the last name Ambush. You are not a punter. You got to be in the linebacker room, right? So Jackson Ambush, Desmond Tisdale, just a dynamic duo that is going to be a top 3 linebacker room in the conference. And then the DB room, I think it's going to be average to above average. They bring in Philip Dunham from Indiana. I think that's a good get. They bring in Kazir Brown from Maine. That's an impact. Combine that with Day Hill, Jaden Williams, and I'm not worried about a lot of people beating FAU through the air this year. So with that, let's go to our breakout players starting on offense. We'll go with George Johnson. So comes in from UMass. Did pick up a 60 yards receiving and a touchdown versus Toledo. Again, as a transitional piece where he was predominantly used as a receiver. Now he's going to be, from my understanding, used more as a predominant running back. I'm sure he's going to be I'm sure that means he's one of those like shifty gadget receivers that is now running full time. Good news is he doesn't have a lot of carries on those knees, right? So he should be pretty fresh. I think that's the benefit to that type of conversion. I'm sure it means he's going to be used in the passing threat alongside that receiver room. Just very interested to see what Johnson III does as a running back at FAU instead of being used as a wide receiver. And then on defense, we'll go with the line. We'll go with Jacob Merrifield. So 4-tackle performance against Tulsa last year. A 3-star recruit in the class of 2021 that just never played significant snaps over the last few years. I think he's ready to make that move. I think he's ready to step up and be that player that FAU needs him to be. He just hasn't really gotten his reps yet, or gotten his chance yet. The time is now. The time is coming, but I think Merrifield is due for a good year. Someone on that D-line is going to have to step up. I think it will be him. I think Merrifield will be the one to make an impact and make the most of this opportunity. But it just hasn't happened yet. I think it's going to happen this year. So Merrifield on defense, Johnson on offense for an FAU team that I think is going to blow away expectations based on what they've had in the past. So that leaves us with our top two. Again, we already know it's a championship game. Order does not matter. So we're going to go Memphis first. And order doesn't matter in that sense. I do have this as a regular season standing. So I'm going to take Memphis second. Again, it was always going to be competitive in the AAC. Memphis is going to be one of those top programs, and no reason they're not going to be back in the thick of this year. Ryan Sofield's done a fantastic job there. Been there for 5 years. I believe he took over from Norvell and has never looked back. I anticipate more of the same moving forward, where Memphis is going to be one of those contenders within this conference this year, probably beyond. So when we look at the depth chart that Memphis has, the offense is flying, right? The O-line is one of the strongest in the conference. From center to the right, you have Jonah Gamble, Xavier Hill, Kadro Lewis. Lewis comes in from ULM. And then you bring in Jalen Nichols from South Carolina, Trent Holler from Marshall, both of which have played significant snaps. O-line is going to be set. Not a doubt in my mind there. Receiver room is going to be set. You have Demir Blackhoumsi. You combine that with Anthony Landfair at tight end. He's that red zone threat. Rock Taylor's 1,000-yard guy. So you're going 1, 2, 3 deep, and then you throw Kobe Drake into the mix. It's over. It's over. It is the best receiver room in the conference. Combine that with the best quarterback in the conference, Seth Hennigan. This is a passing machine. Memphis is going to put up 35, 42 points again. I know that's a fairly big range, but I mean, it's going to be one of the highest scoring offenses in the country, if I had to guess. And then you got Mario Anderson coming in from South Carolina. Hasn't done a ton historically speaking, but looking to add to a Memphis offense that is already very, very deep in multiple spots. Defense is a little bit of a drop off, but I mean, when you're compared to the fact that the majority of the Memphis offense is the best in the conference, that drop off is kind of expected. So D-line, Cormonte Hamilton, he's your impact guy on the line. It's a line that I think is going to be above average for sure. Average to above average. They bring in Patrick Lucas Jr. from Indiana. Keep an eye on him with William Whitlow. There's a lot to be excited for on the defense as well as the offense. Linebacker, more to be excited about. This is top two. You bring in a couple of transfers. You bring in Javante Mackey from Arkansas State. You bring in Matt Hudson from Harvard, kid who came to play school but is now here to play ball. He's able to do both. And you pair him with Chandler Martin, who's already one of the best linebackers in the conference. The linebacker room is going to be very tough to beat. And then you take into consideration the DB room, which I think is top 5 in the conference, right? You add, Cortland Marsh from Samford. You add him with, Davian Ross and Greg Rubin, especially that, safety and left corner, area. That's a tough area to cover. It's a tough area for anyone to get significant yards on that. So I look at those three to hold it down in particular. You throw in Tyron Taylor and Darius Coffey in the mix, and you have a DB room that is going to be tough to beat. I have a hard time understanding where Memphis is going to lose a lot of games. I think double digits is very, very, very likely for this team. Playoff contention is very, very likely for this team. Top 25 ranking is very, very likely for this team. Just going to be a matter of how it all shakes out across the map and across the country this year. So on offense, our breakout player going to be Mario Anderson. Love that we get to see a little bit of film. So comes in from South Carolina. I want to highlight his game against Vanderbilt in particular. We had 102 yards and rushing touchdown. I think we've got the film on the touchdown. Oh, it's a 72-yarder. It's a big one. So just cannot be stopped. Plows ahead, spins out to end. He is gone. I don't think he's going to get touched. Got the right block. See, like that is just an aggressive, never say die type of run that Memphis is going to need. Memphis is such a pass-heavy offense and has so many weapons on that side of the ball that type of runner, this is going to be tough, man. That is short king energy. I don't know what his height is. He's tiny compared to the rest of them out there. But maybe he's just an undersized guy that never got his chance. And listen, I got nothing on the short kings. I'm 5'8". I get it. So he's just a guy that is determined to will his way to victory. That's what you want to see if you're Memphis. I'm very curious to see what that looks like at Memphis this year and how he integrates himself into such a pass-heavy offense while being a rushing threat the way that he has been in the past. And then on defense, we'll go with Patrick Lucas in the center there. So at the nose tackle there. Comes in from Indiana, did have a 3-tackle performance against Rutgers. That was a solid-looking Rutgers team this past year. Just a guy who hadn't seen a ton of playing time at Indiana. And, they've got a new head coach. They got all their new guys. They're doing the Dion effect. I'm bringing my luggage and it's Louis, that type of stuff over there at Bloomington. But, Lucas is looking for that new spot, that new home, that new opportunity to live up to that potential, to live up to that expectation. And he's got a great program in Memphis to lean on, great opportunity ahead of him, and just, the support system on this defense and the resources at at a school like this, at the Group of Five. I'm sure Memphis has the facilities and the training program that a good chunk of the Power Four has. Not the top half, but how far away is Memphis from a bottom tier ACC team or a bottom tier Big 12 team, right? I'm sure they've got, enough pieces on par. And I'm sure Lucas is going to fit right in, make a huge impact for the squad, and to lead them to their conference championship game. Whether or not they will win will be revealed later. But it's a great looking Memphis squad, and I think they're going to have a lot to be excited about this year. So with that, I'll go over to my first place team for the regular season, and that will be UTSA. So again, a lot to be excited about at UTSA. Did a great job last year integrating to the conference. Came in third place. Jeff Traylor is a hot name on a lot of coach hiring boards, especially in the state of Texas. If Baylor gets rid of Dave Aranda, I know Jeff Traylor is going to get the call. If someone in the Midwest or Southwest or Southeast is looking for a new coach, maybe in a year or two, Traylor is going to be getting that call. Very interested to see what's going to happen, but I think UTSA is a good-looking team this year based on what Traylor and company have built. So let's take a look at their depth chart real quick. One of the best offensive lines in the conference. They bring in C.J. James from New Mexico. He's going to be an immediate impact player at center. But the guards are experienced with Bentley Tatafu and Corey Godinet and Makai Hart there on the right tackle spot. Even Buffalo Cruz, who hasn't played a ton, or hasn't started all that much, but is a strong rotational player. He's going to get his starts now on that left tackle spot. And look at the receiver room, one of the best in the conference, knowing how pass heavy they're going to be. You get DeCorian Clark, he's back. You add that with Devin McCoon. You have a red zone threat in Oscar Cardenas. So I look at this offense, and especially with how pass heavy they're going to be, receivers are there for it. The O-line is in a great spot for it. I think the running back is great in his own right. Kavorian Barnes, right? I think he's a top 5 back in the conference as well. it's going to be, can the QB rise to the occasion? Can Owen McCown step up in such a young space in his career and answer the call for UTSA? He's the least experienced person there, and can he take over this program and can he take over the promised land? Time will tell. On the defensive side of the ball, I think it's a smidge of a drop off, but it's all going to be average or above at any position when it comes to pure returning production. The D line is going to be average to technically below average. I do like Osiris Simon. Brandon Brown has his moments. Joe Evans has stepped up. So definitely some guys to keep your eye on there. Again, it's just comparison to the rest of the conference. It's a couple seniors and a junior that just haven't played as much. They're going to play a lot together over the next 14 or so weeks. Linebacker room is going to be one of your better ones in the conference for sure. Love Jamal Ligon at that Jack linebacker, one of the best in your conference. Add Martavius French to the mix, Donye Taylor and Jamori Robinson. You have a lot of linebackers back there that can make plays in man, zone, in pass, in rush, like whatever you got to do. On the defensive side of the ball, this linebacker room is prepared to get that done. Just going to see how it comes together this year and how their opponents respond and adjust. DB room, I think you go a little bit more back to average. You bring in Denver Harris from LSU. You add that up with Ken Robinson and Elliott Davison as safeties, and outside of that, that's the two safety punches that you need. Corners, I'm not as sold on, but you got a strong safety duo, and the DBs will step up as needed. So I think it's going to be average room on that front. In terms of your breakout players on offense, I'll go Owen McCown. So, played a little bit in mop-up duty against Tennessee, and then started their bowl game this past year. I think that's against Marshall. I think that's the 38 yards rushing. But 170 yards and 2 TDs against Tennessee. I know Tennessee's defense last year was not that great, but that's still an accomplishment and an achievement. So I think we got one of those passes here. Let's take a look at McCown as a passer. And it's in mop-up duty. It's going to be against their second string, but steps back, gets it off just in time. Okay, the receiver breaks the tackle and he's gone. But I think it's more so the concept of being, standing in the pocket. Just watch, because he's got next to no time. They're on him, staying calm, staying poised. And that's as a redshirt freshman, by the way. Like, this is in Neyland. That's an impressive throw given the circumstances surrounding it. If you can make throws like that for 12 weeks a year, 13 weeks, 14 weeks a year, UTSA is going to be in a great position. His dad, you may know as Josh McCown, who played in the NFL for many, many years as a quarterback, and I'm sure is giving him the poise and confidence that he needs to start and succeed at UTSA, the likes that others may not have in their individual repertoire. So I think McCown is ready for a big year at UTSA. So on defense, we'll go with Joe Evans. So again, a guy who's played sparingly over the course of his UTSA career, picked up a couple sacks last year, one against FAU, once against UAB, 6 tackle performance against Army. So it's just a matter of, can he do it consistently? Can he do it often? Can he do it in high impact situations? Time's going to tell. I think he can. I think someone on this D-line is going to have to rise to the occasion if this team wants to be elite. And I think Joe Evans is going to be that guy for UTSA. So I'm looking at Evans for UTSA. I'm looking for McCown on offense for a UTSA team that is going to be impactful, right? I mean, again, when it's all said and done, the winner of the American probably makes the playoffs. They probably get that number 12 seed. So it looks like it's going to be either UTSA or Memphis when it's all said and done. And it's going to take efforts like this from Evans or McCown to get them a road game against someone that, very few think that UTSA could beat. But mean, this is college football. Who knows? We'll get to that's a separate video down the line. We're getting way ahead of ourselves. So Evans on defense, McCown on offense. So to recap our final standings, and again, some of these are loose, right? Some of these you can make an argument. Oh, I have them in sixth. You have them in seventh, and that's fair. So I'll go through it one more time, and I'll tell you which ones I think realistically you could switch around. Temple 14th, Charlotte 13th. I think those are interchangeable. Army in 12th. I like them there. Navy in 11th. Tulsa in 10th. I think you could switch those two. North Texas in 9th. USF in 8th. Rice in 7th. I think you could switch those two around. UAB in 6th. ECU in 5th. And I think the next three are all interchangeable with Tulane in 4th, FAU 3rd, Memphis 2nd. I think those are all switch around. UTSA and I put Temple at the top there. Whoops. That's supposed to say UTSA. I think they're the only ones that you got that are like the far and away top of the conference at this point. So with that in mind, UTSA versus Memphis in your conference championship. Does it go to San Antonio? Does it go to Memphis? Which one are we headed with? So with that, my 2024 American Conference champion pick is going to be going UTSA. That is you can see it. I was going to say it's a little blurry, but no, I think this UTSA team is legit. It's one that we got to take a look at for sure. I think they'll be in the playoffs in some capacity. I don't think they're a top 4 seed. I don't think anyone's going to finish below what UTSA's got going on. But I think you'll see them in a playoff game sooner rather than later as a result of that. So it's going to the Alamo Dome when we're all thinking about it. So that concludes this episode of the New Year's Six podcast. Who do you think is going to do well in the American this year? Who do you think is going to struggle? Where am I right? Where am I wrong? Leave it below. Like, comment, subscribe. Tune in next time as we go through Conference USA. Go through those, that preview and prediction video as well. Should be a little shorter, 10 teams. And then we'll be wrapping up the rest of the group of 5, MAC Mountain West Sun Belt, and then do an independent Pac-2 video. And then we'll be at the start of the season. We'll be there sooner rather than later. I'm recording at the night of August 4th, so less than 3 weeks from there, right? 2 weeks, 6 days. So we're getting close. So again, thanks you all for tuning in. Looking forward to covering this in the future, and looking forward to the start of our season very, very soon. So thanks for your time, and tune in next time.